The college football playoff stage is set, and the committee blessed us with a couple of really exciting first round matchups. The 12-team playoff is opening the door for teams to be able to host the first round in their home stadium, and we've got an absolute thriller here as the number 8 seeded Ohio State Buckeyes get to host the number 9 seeded Tennessee Volunteers, a Big Ten SEC showdown, and the winner gets to take on the number 1 seeded Oregon Ducks. This is a matchup that has a lot of storylines, a lot to talk about, and I'm really excited to dive into this matchup. But if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. We will be doing previews on each and every college football playoff game leading up to the national championship. And later on this afternoon, once all the bowl games have been finalized, we will be doing a Bowl Mania challenge where all of you guys will be able to join. This is an exciting matchup between two teams that have been very competitive all season long. Tennessee has 2 losses on the season, coming to Arkansas and Georgia. And Ohio State also has 2 losses on the season, coming to Oregon and Michigan. The Buckeyes are one of the more interesting stories in the country this year. They have 2 losses on the season, as we mentioned, but this team has had some really high highs and looked completely dominant at points this year. But I think the big storyline going into the playoffs for Ohio State is Ryan Day. Coach Day seems like he's on a one-way ticket out of town, and yet this still seems like a team that has as good enough of a chance as any team in the playoff to win a national championship. Will Howard, the transfer quarterback from Kansas State, has been really solid for the Buckeyes this year. He's been accurate with the football, he's been a threat in the run game, and he's overall been a massive improvement from what they had at the quarterback position last year. They also have had an elite running game. Both Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins have over 700 yards and have combined for 14 touchdowns as a pair. The weapons in the receiving game have also stepped up big for them. Emeka Egbuka is healthy and showing why he is one of the superstar wide receivers in college football. And true freshman Jeremiah Smith is turning into one of the most legitimately scary weapons that college football has ever seen. He's putting up unbelievable numbers as a true freshman that haven't been seen by the Buckeyes since Chris Carter. This team is loaded offensively, and I think they have an elite defense on top of that. Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, Tyleik Williams, and Ty Hamilton man their front 4, and each of them have had incredible seasons and have put up big numbers. The secondary has had big plays from their safety room in particular. Caleb Downs is the best defensive back in the country, and he was a big transfer portal pickup for the Buckeyes this offseason, and Lathan Ransom is healthy and playing elite football as well. There's a lot to love about this team on paper. All the talent in the world, and I think if we're going position by position, this is the most talented roster in all of college football. They have elite players at the skill positions. They have guys that can create pressure, and they make life difficult on quarterbacks. There's a lot to love, but you can't help but wonder, can Ryan Day get this team ready and get them over the hump? Especially considering that Ohio State has a couple of key injuries along the offensive line. Left tackle Josh Simmons went out in the Oregon game, and center Seth McLaughlin, who was playing at an All-American level, tore his Achilles in practice just 2 weeks ago. There are a lot of questions with the cornerbacks as well. Davison Igbinosun has been a penalty machine. He's been really grabby in some key moments this year, and that can't fly. Denzel Burke has also got burned at times, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the defense responds. They have the talent to beat anyone, but I think culture is going to be the question for the Buckeyes. Ryan Day has not been able to beat Michigan in 5 years. They have not had a lot of playoff success under Ryan Day. And will he have this team ready to go up against a Tennessee team that is finally in the playoffs after what seems like years of waiting? The Volunteers have been so close to the playoffs each of the last 2 years, but an ACL injury to Hendon Hooker, an awful play from Joe Milton, really held this team back. I think the thing that has been so different this year for Tennessee, and the number one reason that they are in the playoffs, has been the defensive resurgence in Knoxville. Tennessee over the last few years has really struggled on the defensive side of the ball, but they have improved mightily this year. They are tied for the 12th highest graded defensive units in all of college football. James Pierce has been the best edge rusher in the SEC for the second year in a row, but it's been the other guys that have really stepped up. Joshua Josephs, Omar Norman Lott, Amari Thomas, and this is a pass rush that has been flying around and creating pressure constantly, and they make life extremely difficult on opposing quarterbacks. They have 229 total pressures as a team, which is absolutely remarkable. But the secondary is also playing well. Jermod McCoy is one of the best cornerbacks in the entire country, and he's been incredibly productive at shutting down number one wide receivers. I think that matchup against Jeremiah Smith is going to be one to keep your eye on in this game. The Tennessee offense has been so dominant in the passing game the last 2 years. Coach Heupel runs a very spread offense, pushing guys pretty much to the sidelines and working the middle of the field. And while that has been effective this year, the big story with the Tennessee offense has been their run game. Dylan Sampson is putting up unreal numbers this year, leading the SEC in rushing yards, and he's got nearly 1,500 yards and 22 touchdowns. The passing game is still there, and Dante Thornton and Brew McCoy, Chris Brazel, they still have playmakers that can make life really difficult on the opposition, but the question is Nico Iamaleava. He's an incredible athlete, has a great arm, but the accuracy has come and gone at times this year, and when he's gone up against really good defenses, he's had some struggles that I think could come back to bite him in this game. Tennessee has to find ways to get the ball out of his hands quickly, get him in rhythm, and allow him to play on time. If the Vols can do that, I think they have a legitimate chance to not just win this game, but to win a national title. But if they don't, I think they're going to have a really tough time in this one, and that's part of what makes this game incredibly interesting. The Ohio State defense has the defenders to make life really difficult on Nico Iamaleava. Jack Sawyer has been everywhere for Ohio State's defense all season long, and I think he can really make a statement in this game one-on-one with Zalance Hurd. But it's the other guys. Can the interior protect on Tyleik Williams? Cooper Mays has played well at the center position as well for Tennessee. This is going to be a battle won in the trenches, and I don't necessarily think this is going to be an extremely high-scoring game. Both offenses have fireworks. They can run the ball, they can pass the ball, and they can beat you in a lot of different ways, but I think this game is going to be won in the trenches. And if we're just basing it off of the offensive and defensive lines, I think that's an advantage for Ohio State. Ohio State, I think, is a little bit more well-rounded around the edge. I think they've got more players, and the defensive play calling in key moments has been very impressive at times for Ohio State this year. If you go back to the Indiana game, they knew when to dial up blitzes, when to call the right plays. I think that is something that is really going to help them in this game against a young quarterback in Iamaleava. This game is going to be super interesting, and I could see it going either way. But I am going to go with the home team, Ohio State Buckeyes. And this does pain me as a Tennessee fan, but I do think Ohio State is a little bit better around the edge. The offensive line is going to be the worry. Can the left tackle, which has been Donovan Jackson, can he keep up with the speed of James Pierce Jr.? If Pierce gets it going early, I think this could be a really interesting matchup. And can Will Howard not turn the ball over? We saw it against Michigan and we saw it against Penn State. These big games where he throws these early turnovers, that's not going to slide against a team like Tennessee. And if you get the crowd booing early on, which I'm not ruling out as a possibility, it could be a long day. But I am going to pick Ryan Day and the Buckeyes to get a win and advance in the college football playoff. I think the final score will be 24-17 in favor of the Buckeyes. I don't think it's going to be a fireworks show. I think it's going to be a little bit of a slow offensive start, but I do lean with the Buckeyes to go take on the Oregon Ducks in the second round of the college football playoff.